Welcome to lesson 522, and this will be the last problem we're going to have to go through today, like this. So we are going to be doing problem 5-34, and don't worry about the clock, the video will actually be less than 10 minutes. So if you back up to problem 5-32, you had a scenario where George and Latanya were saving up money to buy new bikes. And in problem 5-32, you're supposed to come up with two independent ways to verify when they would both have the same amount of money. So what two methods did you use? Usually, as an 8th grader, usually people will do a data table or an XY table, and they will do graphs. But there is a third way. Did you come up with rules? If you came up with rules, you could also go through and you could solve it using rules. So let's find these rules. So you have Latanya. So Latanya started with how much money? Latanya started out with $50. And how much money did she save each week? Was it the 25 or the 30? Well, she saved the 30. So, again, you wanted to find out, again, maybe I'll write Latanya up here. That way we know exactly who it is. So it's Y. So when they say she started out with 50, that's your what? Is that going to be your slope, or is that going to be your y-intercept, or your initial value? If you said initial value, you're right. So let's write the 50 here. And how much did she save each week? She saved $30 and X. And you might say, well, shouldn't this be over on this side and it should be over here? It doesn't matter. You know, this is still going to be your y-intercept, or your initial value. This is still going to be your slope. This is your rise over your run on your graph. So that's Latanya's. So let's do George. So what did George start out with? Do you remember? Okay, George started out with, was it $75? I think so. But George did not save as much each week. How much did George save each week? George saved $25 each week. So it'd be 25x. X represents the number of weeks, remember. So here are the equations. So this is for letter A of problem 5-34. Now B wants you to write a rule for George's savings. Okay, so we've already done that. Now it says use the rules to check your solution for problem 5-34. So what did we find as our solution? We found that our solution was $5, correct? Or in week 5. So let's do this. If we take Y equals 50 plus 30, I'm going to put a parenthesis here, times 5. Then we took George, and that's 75 plus 25 times 5. What do we get? So let's go ahead and do this. What's 30 times 5? It's 150 plus 50 is what? 200. Okay, so we should get the same answer if this is confirmed. What's 25 times 5? 125. 125 plus 75 is 200. So this is our solution for C. This shows us that that 5 is indeed the answer to our problem. So this right here is indeed our answer. Now there's one other thing we can do, and you're going to learn this later in the unit, but I want to show you right here. What does y equal? Y equals this. We also know that y equals this. What would happen if we rewrote these? So let's say, for example, I'm going to put the equal sign. I'm going to have Latanya be right here. You might be saying, where's the y? There's no y there. How about we put this for y? We know y equals 75 plus 25x. So if I take this 75 plus 25x, I can put that in place of y. Now, if we work through this problem, what do we get? Well, let's work through the problem. So let me subtract 25x from this. Okay, what do I get then? So if I draw that line there, what's 30x minus 25x? You're saying 5x plus 50 equals, and I have 75 left. Okay, so what do I do next? What's the next step? Okay, I have to isolate the variable. So what happens if I subtract 50? The inverse of a positive 50 or adding 50 is subtracting 50. Okay, so I do that. What do I get? I have 25 equals 5x. What's the very last thing I need to do? Well, I need to divide by 5, because if this is 5 times x, the inverse of multiplying 5 is dividing by 5. Ah, you see what I get now. What's 25 divided by 5? 5. X equals 5. So again, we're going to learn to do it this way too in class, but this is another way to solve. In fact, this way might actually be easier than creating an XY table in a graph. So again, do you have any questions as you finish this? Do you have any questions about it? Do you need to ask me anything? As I'm coming around, don't say everything's okay and everything's, hunky-dory, if you've ever heard of that term, if it's not. Be sure to ask questions. Mr. Toon, I don't understand why we did this. Mr. Toon, I don't understand this. Because if you ask questions, that's how we learn. So again, ask questions if you have them. Let me click